Welcome everyone, and thanks for that a little long introduction. So quickly, basically, I'm a technical trainer as a passion, and I train companies, employee of the companies on various security-related things now. Okay. So prior to COVID, 1 year back, actually, I just landed in February last year before all this thing started in the US and things like that. Right. So, sir has given enough background that you will be already got bored. So the question is, if you are attending this particular session just because you've been forced to, just give for 5 more minutes before you quit or before you switch off and do something else. Just give 5 minutes before you give up on me, okay? Because it might be something that can change your career path, that can change something different. So just give me 5 minutes extra before you give up on this. Okay, I know you have been forced to attend, made to force to attend this particular session, but just give that 5 minutes extra for me. Okay, so let's actually. I'm going to talk about security because I'm passionate about security, and so I'll be talking about few things that I do in the real life, and I thought it may be interesting thing that to actually talk about it to the students of your college. Okay. So you may have heard about this particular thing, security, vulnerability, exploit, and things like that, right? Newspaper or some news that pops up, and you may have just seen something got exploited, there was something got vulnerable, and all those things. So let's actually look at a little bit when we use such terms. Let's try to see what it means actually, right? So I'm going to use the pen and this thing just to kind of see how it can be made more interesting. So basically, security vulnerability is like a weakness that can be exploited by an attacker, right, to perform something unauthorized, so perform something unintended. So vulnerability is the condition of the code we write so that somebody can exploit, the bad code that we write so that somebody can exploit it. So this is the security vulnerability, right? Now, what is the exploit then, right? So exploit is it can be a piece of software, or can be a chunk of data, sequence of commands that takes the advantage of the weakness, that takes the advantage of the security vulnerability and does something unintended. Okay, so exploit is like an attack software. Vulnerability is the condition of the code which is bad. Okay, so that's the thing. Just to start off with, we use the term vulnerability and exploit. We should know what it means. Okay, so you may have also noticed that companies have started announcing various bug bounty programs. Right? You may have heard in newspaper saying that this guy gets like 70 lakhs because he won like $100,000. Right? So we hear this kind of thing that people are announcing. Various companies, they announce various bug bounty programs. Now, what are these? If you have not heard about it, it's okay, you have heard now. Right? So what are these? These are actually money that companies give out to people to find security related defects within their product, right? Not their employees, but people, general people like you and me. So they actually sometimes announce the number dollar values, right? So they announce like $10,000 for remote code execution, $5,000 for, say, in this case, SQL injection. We'll see what it is, and say $750 for cross-site scripting, and we will also see what it is. Right? These are the two main things, main vulnerabilities which are out there in wild. Okay, so companies have started announcing money to general people. Why? Because for some reason they are not able to find the vulnerabilities by themselves, right? So they want people to find the bugs for them. Okay, so and they know that vulnerabilities exist. They know it's there somewhere waiting to be found, right? And they don't want the bad guys to find the vulnerability. They want the good guys like us to find the vulnerability for them, and we get paid for that. Okay, so that is also becoming like a career path for a lot of guys, a lot of young guys who have that inclination towards finding the security related things are able to find vulnerabilities and get paid for it, and they are taking it as a career path. So recently there was an announcement that a guy actually made $1 million just by finding vulnerabilities. That was his kind of job, full-time job, for his own full-time job, sitting at his home. He actually did this thing. So this is like a career path that's evolving, and a lot of people are taking towards it. And this talk is just to insight some of those things. Okay. Now let's talk about one of the vulnerability which was like very popular, right? So it was called as Heartbleed vulnerability. This was in a component called OpenSSL. Okay. OpenSSL is a component that allows you to kind of do, when you do HTTPS, a lot of programs use the library OpenSSL, like an open source library, to do HTTPS. So if I do HTTPS, say my hdfcbank.com, it may underline at some point, if the product is using SSL, it may use the OpenSSL library itself, right? Now, what we find is the impact of this vulnerability was very high, which means the attackers were able to get the certificate encryption keys, the private keys, all the secrets that one would hopefully keep it a secret, that got leaked. The attackers were able to get those keys and try to kind of impersonate that user. So I can become like hdfcbank.com. Right? HDFC Bank is a good bank. I'm just taking an example of any my bank. Say I can impersonate mybank.com. Right? So if you get the private keys of any certificate, then you can pretty much impersonate that particular thing. Then that kind of attack happened. You can Google on Heartbleed and kind of find out more. But essentially, the line of code, I'm just showing the code lines in case if you have done a little bit of C code, you may have done some C code during first year, or and then later on you may have played around with it, right? So it was like they were missing some checks. Simple check that if it exceeds certain length, then what is the problem? So actually the problem was, let me try to illustrate. The problem was SSL added a command for something known as echo back, right? So you can actually send this particular command and get back your own packet, whatever you sent. Okay, so it's like echo back packet. So what happened was here, in this case, there was, so you can send the length. So 64 bytes, you can say 64 bytes, and you can send 64 bytes, and you will get back your own 64 bytes. Okay, so that was an echo back kind of packet that they have added feature in SSL. Now what happened was, some clever guys, right, found out that if I send 64, if I write here for some reason, okay, so let me write it here. Yeah, much easier to write. If I write 64 here, like it's a 64 bytes, but send only 5 bytes. Okay. If I say that it's a 64 byte packet and send only 5 bytes, the response that you get is still 64 bytes. Okay. Which means the first 5 bytes are mine. The rest of the bytes are the near memory dump, whatever the memory adjacent memory location, it would give me a dump of that memory. Thereby, the attackers were able to exfiltrate the private keys. Okay. Now, this was a trick that they used to actually exfiltrate the private keys. Simple trick. You tell that it's a 64, but not give 64, because nobody expected that anyone would do something like that. Right? And this is where the way to find these security-related defects arise. If you're of that type, you can think differently, saying that, okay, let me try this. A lot of people are like, they'll keep walking one way only. Like a lot of people in the road, they'll keep walking one way. But you'll see some guys taking a different route. It may be a difficult path. He's going through weeds and all those things. People say mad or what, like that. But these are the guys who will be probably trying to find the vulnerability. So if you're the guy who can think differently, or you can force yourself to think differently. Right? Sometimes we have to force ourselves to say, what is the chance that the guys may have missed this check? Right? And is there a way that I can find a security vulnerability? Right? So, and the check, this was the fix that was done, right? To kind of just do a check whether the actual packets are within the range that is there, within the record length that is there. If it's greater than the record length, then it is to discard. So sometimes we see that it's a one-line fix for a problem that has kind of exploded like anything. Like millions of certificates were revoked for this particular bug. Okay, so so it's quite a thing that's happening today, right? Now we also see various, if you see certain vulnerabilities are out there, some incidents, right? So in this case, the GE protection relays exposes the power grid. Now here they actually used some homegrown encryption algorithm. So when you're writing encryption related things, cryptography, encryption, all those things, you should actually use the well-known algorithms. Right? They actually wrote their own small encryption thing, which got cracked, and the attackers were able to exploit that particular thing. Okay, so so this wasn't, say this was 2017. You might say this is an old news. Why are you telling me? But 2021, the similar kind of attacks still persist. Right. The flaw was inadequate encryption. So they did not use the encryption of the communication, right? That resulted in like exposing of sensitive information, right? When you attack a grid, you can pretty much bring down an infrastructure, right? When you attack a particular grid, the attackers, when they attack a grid, they can pretty much bring down the infrastructure. So So it had like cross-site scripting vulnerability. They found denial of service attacks, unauthorized firmware uploading. Imagine the thing that you can upload on the grid your own firmware, right? So all these things create those things, and presence of hardcore credentials. This is also one of the popular thing where the username and the passwords are right there in the device itself. Okay, it's hard coded. You cannot change anymore. If somebody comes to know or somebody figures out, so some trial and error, they have the attack now. Okay, so a lot of these mistakes we are continuing to do so. Okay, so it's not just pointing out to GE, which is I've just pointed out because it's one of the greatest company in the world, right? And if they can do some mistakes, any other company can potentially do. Remember, they have got army of people to actually do the testing, validating, and all those things. If these guys can do the mistake, then we need to be careful whether other products will have similar vulnerabilities or not. So best thing is to learn from other vulnerabilities that has occurred and try to see if I can find vulnerabilities for some companies as a part of their own bug bounty program. Okay. So this was from a Black Hat security conference. Medtronic is a very good electronic device company. So you may have heard about Medtronic. Some people go for internship and things like that, right? Now they had like they make like pacemakers, insulin pumps, and things like that, right? Now here's the case in one of the Black Hat conference. They actually showed some of the good guys. They show what are the vulnerabilities out there, right? So these are all public information, right? And they show that in this particular case, they show that they were able to kind of the connection that was there for loading the firmware. I'm sure people understand that we have firmware, sometimes our routers, we update our routers to load a newer firmware because there was some issue with that. It was not very fast and things like that. Or it was not updated to the newer standard of the Wi-Fi. Sometimes we do end up kind of upgrading our firmware. I'm sure a lot of people would have kind of done it, right? So they found that it was not delivered over an HTTPS connection. And also the firmware was not digitally signed, which means somebody can tweak the firmware and you will not come to know. Right? When a digitally signed file is there, then you cannot tweak them, you cannot modify it. It would come to know because the sign would not match with the data which is there. So in which case it would actually fail. It would not allow you, should not allow you to kind of run a file which is kind of modified. Right? So they showed the attack that they could actually do in the pacemaker, they could actually run a malicious firmware. Right? They also found another attack, right? And this is the attack on the insulin pump, where actually the pump it's an automatic insulin pump where it will detect the blood sugar level, and based on the current sugar level, it will actually give the dosage of insulin. Right? So they also found that there was a remote configuration on that insulin pumps by which they did some hack, the RF hack, and they actually withheld, they could withhold the dosage of insulin. So a lot of these things happen. People write programs, people write software thinking that nobody will do anything bad. Unfortunately, today we are living in a world where a lot of bad people are trying to cause problems. Right? So there is more need of people who are more security aware, and hence I'm actually even if one person in this whole team takes up this thing, that I would assume that this is a successful talk. Okay. So basically, this is the thing that I want you guys to make aware of in case if you're not aware of it. Right? So again, come back, like even in 2020, there was some vulnerability wherein the attackers could actually take the control of the cardiac devices. So there was a vulnerability wherein the attacker was able to use another regular mobile and try to control the device. Normally, it could only be controlled using the Medtronic smart reader. Here was the case. The attacker showed that he could use another smartphone and actually control those devices. He saw the Bluetooth communication, looked at those things, and then figured out this particular vulnerability. Right? So these are the things where we need to be really hands-on. We need to understand what it is. We need to kind of play around with those bits and bytes. Try to know about communication. What is happening out there? What is being communicated? All those things, qualities has to come to find these kinds of vulnerabilities, because you guys are mainly from EE background. You guys more understands of this signaling than other people, like the computer guys, right? So it's a great opportunity if you know and understand the technology. You'll have to learn some things and then try to find what is the communication that happened between two devices. Can I try to snoop and find out what exactly happened between two devices? I have got two devices, right? Just as a fun project, right? This will give us an understanding of what's happening out there, right? And then if you have that kind of skills, or you can develop those skills to actually find the security vulnerability within those devices. Right? This is a great opportunity as the number of devices are increasing. You have got IoT device, even sometimes the bulbs, the geysers are all becoming IoT ready in terms of you can start and stop, you can monitor it on your mobile phone and all those things. That's like the fun thing that you are actually looking at, and some people already started using it. They may all have security vulnerabilities. So IoT devices are today considered as highly vulnerable to security attacks, these attacks, okay, because they're not written properly. Okay, so this is a great opportunity for anyone to actually explore this if you are interested. Otherwise, we'll do something else. Okay. Now, the question is, sometimes people ask is, who are we defending against? Who are these people who are doing these things? So first thing comes to mind is cyber criminals. So these are the people who are actually attackers. They make money by attacking, like those. Remember, they actually extortion, right? Sometimes we hear that in the shops. We hear that some people extorted money, or some people mugged, saying the gunpoint, saying that give me this much money, otherwise I'll shoot you, kind of thing, right? So extortion that happens, like that in the electronic world, it's very, very prevalent. Now, if you think about it, in a local world where we used to live, in the shopkeeper, you need to have the local guy coming into a shop and then extort. In a global world that we live on, an internet world, anyone from any part of the world can come in and get to your machine and attack your machines, attack your products, attack the software, attack the servers, right? So, and then these guys kind of make money out of it. They blackmail, they make money out of it, they steal data. They say, I'm going to kind of share this data to the whole world if you don't pay me this much money, and all those things, kind of thing that we hear in all those things are actually real. It's not just movies thing. They're actually real. These guys are real. They're making a lot of money in terms of attacking this. So these are the things we want to defend against, right? State actors, some countries employ people in their payroll. They employ people to actually attack on other countries, to see what the secrets of other countries are. So to find out what are they working on, to attack their infrastructure, and all those things that's happening. So countries have started taking this as a warfare to actually attack on other countries, right? So you can look at Google on state actors and find out which other countries which are involved in it. I don't want to name any, defame or any countries, but that's how it's happening. Now, malicious employees, right? So you would assume that as an employee, right, I'm using a product of a particular, I have joined this, say a particular, say bank, right, as an employee, right? I've joined the bank and I have got some access to access the bank data, right? But I can potentially become malicious and do something using this product as well, and find out more data or do something kind of thing to exploit the system that I have, right? So this is also, unfortunately, this is also a threat actor in today's world, right? Competitors, today the word is like kill the competition. But this is not the way one would do it. But that's the thing, that the world that we are working on, right? Where competition wants to kill the competitors, so they actually involved in these bad practices. Right? Hacktivists, people who call themselves activists, right? And they have certain beliefs. You want to like it or not, for whatever reason, they have certain beliefs. Now, it's fine, have the beliefs, but then don't attack the systems just because the companies did not believe in your thoughts, whatever the thoughts you have, right? But we are seeing an increase in rise of these people who are attacking the systems, right? So for the companies who did not approve their comments or whatever they said, right? This is also one of the things. And finally, some script kiddies. These are young kids, high schoolers, who are actually just playing around with the system. Generally they don't do anything bad. They would just defame a website and bring down some few things, add their own things and things like that. But that is also one of the threat actors who we need to defend against. So these are like the people who we need to defend against. If some question comes to your mind, just write it down somewhere, and I can even go back to a slide if you want me to show. But I just want to continue my thought and continue. I know sometimes it's a good I normally give chance for people to ask questions in the middle itself, but generally we will continue here. Also, there is new thing in the attacking world is the attackers exploit, say in this case, a Jenkins servers. It's a high-end, high bandwidth servers. They exploit those servers and do some cryptocurrency mining. Right? So cryptocurrency mining is something that's, remember we have started hearing about purchasing Bitcoins in IPL. I started here looking at a lot of ads that actually shows like buying and selling Bitcoins. I don't know how legal or illegal it is, but whatever it is, I saw some ads during the IPL thing that was happening. And so those are the Bitcoins, right? So similarly, So people do mining of Bitcoin. They need some processing power to actually to generate those coins, right? So so the thing is, if I use my own computer to actually do the cryptocurrency mining, what it's called, right? Then it's not worth it, because the money that I get is very, very minuscule, right? To do for me to do that particular in business, because if I was able to make money, everyone will be jumping into that business. So I get paid for doing some compute, for doing a legitimate cryptocurrency mining. I get paid by the company, right? So say cryptocurrency mining here, it's Monero, right? That's a like competitor to Bitcoin. Now it's if as an attacker, if I'm able to exploit other people's machine and run this code on that machine, then I can legitimately make free money, right? So it's an attack that you're doing. So that is also one of the things that we are seeing an increase in numbers, in terms of number of people attacking and doing this cryptocurrency mining on other people's computer. So I use other people's computer and do some cryptocurrency mining, give that the compute results to the company, and legitimately make money from there, right? So, and that's a problem actually, because it's not legitimate. Actually, you've done an attack and you have tried to do something bad, but we are seeing an increase in the trend of these things. So I would like to, enough talk actually. So I would like to show an attack, like an SQL injection attack and cross-site scripting attack, which we had seen in the previous earlier slides, some incidents, or what it is. Like sometimes you may not know about what is SQL injection attack, right? So let's actually, it's a kind of code injection attack for the code that uses something known as structured query language, SQL. You can actually, it's a database thing. Some people may know about it. And if you have not done correctly as a developer, if you have not written it correctly, then you may have an SQL injection vulnerability. Okay, so let's see a demo and then we'll be more interested. I've already opened up this. I have already installed a VM, a virtual machine, which is called as Dojo VM from a company called Maven Security. Okay, so I'm going to actually go click home here. I will increase the font. Give me some time and I will increase the font. I'm going to actually click on this Insecure Web App. So this is the VM that we learn the securities from. So it's a Security Dojo VM. If you just Google on Security Dojo VM and just space Maven Security, anyone can download this particular VM. Right? So it's asking for what's your name, right? So a name, I'm going to say Narayan. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type something in the password. Let me zoom a little bit. I know some people are probably watching from their phones. So I'm going to zoom it a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to say quote or quote one quote equal to quote one quote dash dash. This is my password. Okay. So I'm going to actually put quote or quote one quote equal to quote one quote dash dash. Okay. This is a classic login bypass injection. Okay, SQL injection. So I'm going to do a control X, which means cut, and then do a control V in the password. Since you can't see it, I typed it there so that we can see what I'm typing. Do a control V. So without knowing the password, without having this username, I'm able to, so I'm going to say don't save. I'm able to log into the system. Took longer time than normal. So I'm able to actually get into the system without knowing the password, without having the username, without password. I just did some random thing and able to log into the system, right? So this is the classic login bypass that the attacker may use, right? So not to say that all the products are vulnerable. This is just a start to see what can be a potential vulnerability in any code that is there. Okay. So now if I try to say products. Try to see products. I'm clicking on the products, so it's showing me some products. Now it is telling me to do some free text search. Okay, it's telling me to do some free text search. Typically, there will be a vulnerability if proper coding is not done. There will be a vulnerability where one can inject a union clause. So I have already kind of created this. Control C. So I have actually, let me put it here so that before I do this. So what I have done is union select one. It's a SQL statement. It's easy to learn. Even if you don't know anything about SQL, you can start now. quote union select one login pass null 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 from user dash dash. Okay, so what essentially I am doing is union will do like a union of two sets, whatever you have searched plus whatever the records that you found from this. Okay, so whatever you have searched from there, union of two sets, so it will be merge of both. Okay, so this is the union select clause. I'm saying print login and pass. Okay, and I'm going to search this and see what happens. So just click the search, and here is the thing where I got login pass null null null. Okay, so admin secret A Smith Andy, I got to know all the username and password which is there in the system. So these are the kind of attacks that just to get as a starter to kind of that people may leave even though the product is working fine, but it might be still be vulnerable. So these are the things that's happening out there. So this is a classic SQL injection vulnerability. Okay. So typically what would happen is in a SQL injection, like say here is the thing where select account number balance from accounts where cust ID equal to blank, right? So typically a particular query will be running at the server side and it will give me the data back, right? Anything that's query will be running and it will give me the data back. So now here is this particular thing is a vulnerable code, okay, which because it is kind of doing something that is not correct because it's taking a customer ID like that and appending that customer ID into the query like that. Right? When you do concatenate to string, we do plus and then it will get appended. Right? So it's doing something like that here, and so this is a vulnerable code. Now suppose you do your bankbank.com, right? And you do either HTTP or HTTPS. Today we don't have HT, so it should have been like HTTPS, though it doesn't matter. It should be HTTPS. Now if you actually go to see your account and if you just do a backspace, cust ID equal to quote or 1 equal to 1 dash dash like this, if you do, that may have potential vulnerability if the code is written like this. Okay. If the code is written like this, then it is potentially vulnerable code, right? Now one caveat, one caution, I want to tell everyone that you cannot try it on a real system. Like you have got SBI account, we cannot try it on an SBI account on a live system. It will be illegal, right? So you have to learn this thing using a VM, try to understand what people are saying. A lot of videos are there, a lot of resources. I'll be sharing some of the resources, learn through that, but never ever try it on a real system. Why? What's the big deal? Because you may be considered as attacking the particular system. And if you do that, then you will require a very good lawyer to defend yourself. Right? So no point trying it on a real system. Nobody likes to be attacked, right? Even though you are in a good sense trying to find if my bank has this vulnerability as an innocent guy, you're trying to find the vulnerability. Remember, online nothing is anonymous. Everything is traced, tracked, and it's easy to track anyone who's trying to do anything like that, right? So so never try anything on the real system. Try it on a VM, try it on a kind of a private copy of things, and see whether you want to learn something for a learning thing, right? So what happens is when you run this query, select account of balance from accounts where cust ID equal to blank or 1 equal to 1. So essentially we have changed the query to saying select account number balance from accounts where cust ID is blank or true. So it will always be true. So basically it will show all the account number and its balance because we are saying select account number balance from accounts where true. So it's going to show all the account number and the balance. This is the kind of mistakes that we are leaving when we are writing code. Okay. Here is a cartoon from a popular xkcd.com. Right? So I'll just give you a few seconds to just look at this and have some fun. So what we need to do to actually fix this, we need to use something known as parameterized queries. So we need to use parameterized query to fix those SQL injection related vulnerabilities, right? Now another thing, the cross-site scripting that we saw in the grid attack, like there was cross-site scripting attacks. To kind of understand cross-site scripting, let's actually look at the demo. So there are two types of cross-site scripting attacks. That is, one is called stored or persistent cross-site scripting, another one is called reflected cross-site scripting. So let's actually go to our VM, and where is it? This is our VM, and I'm going to go back to home, and I'm going to click on DVWA. I'll zoom it out a little later. I'm going to click on what is known as DVWA. Again, it's a learning aid for DAM vulnerable web application, and I'm going to type in, so username is admin, ADMIN, and password is PASSWORD. I think it's pretty already zoomed. I don't want to save it. So it's already there, username and password is already there. Now what I want to show is the stored cross-site scripting. So I'm going to click on the XSS stored. This is the thing that you learn using this. I want you guys to actually install the VM and then try to learn this thing, kind of understand different vulnerabilities. I'll give some resources, and I'm going to give my name. And here in the message, it's asking me like your feedback or something. In this case, it's asking me your message. Now I'm going to give script alert 1. I'm going to give some JavaScript. Even if you're not familiar with JavaScript, it's fine. You can learn anything. So I'm going to put script alert 1, and I'm just going to say my test script alert 1, and ended the script and sign into the test. Now what happens is it is executing that script, right? So I was able to do what is known as cross-site scripting attack, right? Now anyone who used this feedback, anyone who used my feedback, there are blogs, there are feedbacks, people are writing their comments. If proper care is not taken, then they may be running the script provided by the attacker. Here I'm considered as an attacker, so I have already I was able to inject a script into some other services, right? So if my bank has a vulnerability, then I'm able to inject that particular vulnerability, right? So the thing is, again, we don't want to try it in our banks or anything of that sort. You want to learn these things, and we can legitimately participate in the bug bounty programs, okay, where they would give a separate account, and it's all free. You don't have to pay to get this kind of thing. It's all free. Anyone can register. If you have the skill, if you're interested in this, then you can actually learn these kinds of things, especially in the pandemic lockdown, where we don't know, we are playing some random games here and there, don't know what to do. If it excites you, then it's like, it's just amazing actually, right? So now it's in the case of here, it's asking what's your name. Sometimes these websites will ask you, how do you want to be greeted? Mr., Miss, Doctor, and things like that. So he is asking me what's your name, right? So I'm going to give my name as Narayan with a script alert 1 / so if it has got a reflected cross-site scripting vulnerability, then I will be able to execute these commands, right, appearing to come from the server. So there it is. This is the case of a reflected cross-site scripting, where things bounce back whatever you have typed. What's your name? You gave with the script, and it actually ran the script on my local browser. Okay, so I hope you have got an idea of what I'm trying to say, and hopefully in this short thing you got like a quick overview of what is the SQL injection, what is the cross-site scripting. Now, as I was saying, like security is a booming field. Anyone who is interested can be part of it. All the companies, I don't know any companies do not have their own bug bounty programs, right? So how do I know which companies are running their own bug bounty programs? The best place is HackerOne, right? So register on HackerOne and see what's out there. They have got beginner's manual, hacking manual, what to do, how to hack. I mean, lot of learning resources are there, okay? And then they'll actually have a list of companies who are actually running the bug bounty programs. You can look at the problem statement. You can see they will give you an account where you can actually log in and see whether a particular place is vulnerable or not. People have given on their own write-up on how did they found the vulnerability. All those things we can learn from other people, researchers who have found. They call themselves as security researchers, right? They have sometimes put that out how they found it. So spend some time to understand what it means if it's interesting for you. There's also this Bugcrowd, which actually is like they run the bug bounty programs for other companies. Now, what are the type of vulnerabilities? There is something known as OWASP.org. Right? OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project. Right? Now, they are a great resource for learning about securities. Right? So, if you look at HackerOne, if you look at OWASP, you don't need anything. MITRE is also a good source. They actually, based on the actual vulnerability that comes in, they actually put in give some scores to the vulnerabilities, the type of vulnerabilities out there, the top 25 type of mistakes that people do. All those things are there. Right? So if it is exciting for you, right, then you can actually explore in this time where we don't know what to do. We are directionless. Exams are getting postponed, or college exams are getting done. Things are like that. I know it's pretty bad. You can't meet people. You can meet online, virtual, with some good friends and say, hey, let's try to learn this. I learned this. You learned this. What did you do? That kind. You can do that, and that's the best way to learn actually. So way back in 91, if I can go back to my engineering thing, where computer engineering was booming field. It was like we did not know, we did not have any manual, no internet, nothing. Learn through manual, read all those things, and then try to figure out what it is. It was a very difficult time. Getting resources, going to library itself was a big thing. Now it's much more easier. So I had like 4 friends. We just worked together all night. We were sitting together and doing some stuff, enjoying projects and things like that. I want everyone to try to enjoy those things, those experiences. It will be a fun learning thing. You cannot forget. And the friends who are the 4 friends, we are still in touch. We still have a WhatsApp group, and we keep discussing about what we did, like the cool things that we did, which is still kind of interesting for us. So try to do something which is interesting. Try to do a project or something collectively. The pandemic thing is there. So do you have a solution in mind? Right? We want to have enough complaints. We are hearing the media is throwing enough complaints. Can we silently work on a solution that we get an idea saying, let's try to make this thing, right? And do some project. The final year project can be some pandemic related things, solving real problems, real life problems. What are the problems that you're facing, and how do you solve it? So there is a lot of exciting time. So you can do what you want, and nothing great than somebody giving time to you. So this is a great opportunity that you can do it on your own space. You got time, and you can do it like whatever the thing that you are interested in.